Hi, today I'll be changing a DC jack or a micro USB jack on a Samsung tablet. Is the port itself, tools required, a praying tool, a small Phillips screwdriver, obviously solders, flux, and then I'll be using a soldering station, the MX 5000 series, and cheap Atten hot air station. I do have a decent Metcal HTC 900, but I only use this for SMD rework, for example QFN removal or SMD capacitors and things like that, because that Metcal is very powerful hot air station, and I do not want to sort of use it removing DC jack and USB jack and whatever it is. So I'll be sort of walking through the full process of removal. First of all, just getting onto the action now, is to sort of pray around the tablet itself to sort of free it up. Sorry, I meant to say free up the LCD from the rear casing. So you will hear them clicking as you sort of pray, and you'll hear it clicking. That's a good news. That means that it's literally, the clips are coming off. Hopefully I should just be able to sort of pull it out. Okay, and I think that, there we go. Okay, what you want to do is now remove the battery. There's a screw here, and one there. And obviously you've got to pull up the connector. Excuse me. Now I'll pull up the connector. I can use my praying tool if I want to, or the alternative option is to sort of pull up the battery. Don't lose the battery screws. Okay, let's just sort of get rid of these screws. Oops, sorry. No, that won't come out. That won't come out either, so that's no good. But I will need a flat tip screwdriver to raise the battery. That's very unusual. Right, I'll probably just pull this off. Do it from the both sides. Don't just sort of disconnect it from one side, because what the connector itself. Because what tends to happen on a rare occasion is basically the edge of the if you raise it from one side, the pressure sort of snaps the connector corner of the connector, and it remains in the socket itself. I've done it in the past, so I'm telling you not to, just to be careful with it, basically. Right, okay. Now, remove these screws. That one to remove the back plate, and then you've got to remove the motherboard. But before you go in onto this, I would advise you to sort of remove these connectors. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's good. Now you can move those screws. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 screws. just raise the motherboard off the rest of the assembly. There we go. Okay, so that can go at rest. What we've got to focus on now is removing this plate. It's got sort of a adhesive underneath it, so I'd use the hot air station to just preheat it and raise it off the motherboard. Put this somewhere here. So as you can see that I'm just sort of heating up the back plate. The temperature set at about 100 degrees Celsius. I think that's more than enough. That. Just preheat it for a few seconds more. I think we're ready to go. Just sort of pray it off. There we go. And that comes off. Okay. Now the next step is, I always do that, is to mask the components, surrounding components around, because I will be using a hot air station to sort of remove this. I don't want any sort of a damage caused to the surrounding components due to any sort of heat whatsoever. So a bit of Captain tape, which I didn't mention on my tools required. I mean to say Captain tape, for the fuck. It's aluminium reflective tape, not Captain tape. And I mean by Captain tape, I mean this, okay? And it'll prevent it, as I said before, it'll prevent components, any heat sort of reaching to the components. You don't need an awful amount, just a tiny little bit. I'd probably just turn it around and maybe just apply it a bit on this side as well. Right, that's done. Okay, brilliant. Now let's put these things on the side. Okay, I'll be powering up the soldering station. Okay, that's done. I'll be turning the fan on, so I don't want to inhale fume while I'm soldering. Turn the light on. Properly. Right, okay. Next step is to get my little PCB support. I'm just sort of using this as a shield so that my worktop, my nice worktop, doesn't get damaged due to the heat. That's the sole purpose of this actually, so that's that. But before I put it on, I'm going to apply a bit of flux. Now the flux what I'm using is always the best flux on the market, simply Amtech. They're very expensive, but what you pay for what you get. Applying it on the 4 studs and all the solder connectors. Connections, not connectors, forgive me. Right, I'm going to set the hot air station to 400 degrees Celsius. Okay, that's ready. Now, applying a bit of a leaded solder onto the joints, which effectively make the removal process of the jack itself easy, because the melting point of the leaded SM-T210, I believe it is, 183 degrees Celsius versus the lead-free crap at 218 degrees Celsius. What I'm doing now is I'm applying solder on the 4 leg of the USB port, and now I'll be applying solder on the DC Okay, that'll be enough. Clean the solder tip. Right, I need this pressing down with something, so it's okay. Grab my tweezer. There we go. Right, first thing first is what you want to do, what you don't want to do, sorry, is apply heat directly, you know, with that sort of temperature, 400 degrees Celsius. So best thing to do is just preheat the board, just gently, for about a few seconds. It's about 20 seconds, whatever. Now as you can see that by putting a protective layer of aluminium protective layer on top of these components, is prevented the heat sort of penetrating and damaging. Even if I prematurely heat it, it's preventing it from any sort of damage. Now unfortunately you can't see very clearly, but as I'm preheating now, the jack is sort of, I can see the solder sort of becoming liquidous. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in for the kill. Here we go. There we go. Easy peasy. That's done. I did reposition my hot air station before, but put that back in where it is. Right, okay. Right, I'm not going to waste time now. I'm going to remove this old gunky crap. So again, a bit more flux. Copper braille. I do use the best of the best, as you can imagine, and these are from my UK supply, so they are not the fake cheap ass good what you can buy from eBay. Right, what I'm doing is I'm removing the excess solder, or I should say the crappy old solder. Whatever you do, don't pull, like here, my solder, sorry, copper braille got stuck. So whatever you do, don't pull the copper braid, because what you will do is you'll rip out the pads, and that will be a painful job to just sort of sort the thing out. I think that's good enough, that. Yes, it is good enough. Okay, so there's no more solder on the pads. Give it a quick clean with IPA, 100%. Okay, reapply a bit of flux. Not a lot. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to apply solder onto those pads. Now, in professional field of soldering, when you sort of soldering, it's recommended not to sort of hold the tip for more than 2 seconds at a per solder joint, sort of a thing. You're all right with here because there's nothing to sort of damage, but it's just the mathematics behind how the soldering sort of works, and the temperature it should be at, and how many seconds that it should be. add a bit of a flux. What this does is it flows the solder better. Okay, and I think we are good to go on that so far. Right, I'll give it another clean. Get rid of all the excess flux. Although that these flux are non-conductive, I'd still like to sort of have a clean PCB. That's much better. Right, new port. These are original Samsung port. They're not the cheap ass port what you can buy off again off eBay or whatever you can buy it from. But they're not the cheap ones. Right, I'm going to tin these connections. These tiny little connections here. So when it's sort of when I put it back on I don't necessarily need to sort of go through the full step of applying solders onto every single connectors. There has been occasions where I had to because the tinning process wasn't good enough, but I'll give it my best shot now. Be careful, the last three connectors I should say, what the fuck, the last three little tiny connectors are so close to one another that when you're even trying to tin it, it just sort of becomes attached with one another. You know, the solder is like a solder bridge basically, what I meant by that. So I need to check and make sure that this hasn't happened, and I can only do that on my Mac under the microscope, so bear with me. Yes, the last two is definitely sort of oh Right, I'm going to have to do this under the microscope, guys. You're probably wondering what I'm using to do the thingy. I'm using my loved Mantis Elite, which is from Vision Engineering. Absolutely cracking piece of kit. The reason why I say this is there's very little eye fatigue. In fact, there's 0% eye fatigue, I should say, because of the way it's designed. I'm not very happy with the way these last three little connector looks. I'll give you a preview of what I mean by that. Just bear with me. There we go. And as you can see, that the rest of the connectors sort of well, sorry, just get this down. Focus. Sort of quite far apart from one another, except those three on the top, basically. Put the camera back on. Get back to action. Right, okay, so just gonna make sure, let's clean this crap off. When I say crap, I mean the flux. Just so that I can inspect the joints and make sure that there's no solder bridging during the tin process that I actually did before. And the best way to check this is I'm going to use my multimeter on a continuity check mode and see if it's beeping. If it is, then they're shorted. It did beep on the track. I can't see under the microscope whether there's nothing. I'm quite sure. Okay, that's good. No, it's not. So that's fine. I'm happy with this. Actually, absolutely happy with it. What did I just? Have I just dropped this? I did. Oh, crikey. Right, okay, we're back in action now. Let's put this thing back together. Right, so move this away. Again, preheat the area. What my objective is to sort of melt the solders, and I'm just going to drop the port in, and that's it really. I may sort of consider checking and maybe apply a bit of solder onto the joints itself, but otherwise, I think I might be sort of successful. Now, ideally, I would recommend to sort of apply a very thin layer of flux. There we go. To assist the solder flowing better and quicker. Just position this on my hand properly. Drop it in. Here we go. I saw the solder flow in. Sort of position the board. Press it down. And let it go. Blow a bit of compressed air just to sort of cool down the port. There we go. Get rid of this, I don't need that crap. PCB can come off the holder, I can put this back, I don't need this now. That can go away. I'll tidy the rest later. Let me just check and see if I need to sort of apply any solder onto the joints. Yes, I will. Not for you, and I know I'll show you what I mean. Unfortunately, the solder that was on it just been sucked up by the rest of the thingy, so it's the very sort of at top one here towards here. I have something that I can poke with. That one needs reapplying, and maybe I'll just those are okay. But that one, and that one, maybe I'll just apply a bit of solder. Now, unfortunately, I can't sort of show you because I don't have a microscope set up where I can actually sort of show you what's happening. A camera setup, I should say. I don't have that, so unfortunately, you're just gonna have to trust my judgment, basically. So here we go, under the microscope. and I am just going to sort of beautifully done. Absolutely, that's fantastic stuff. I'll show you now what's happened. There you go. Suppose I can add a bit of a flux and just reflow those joints, and it'll be much nicer. That's what the flux is all about, which I probably would. I'll just reflow those joints again and really make sure that it's done right then. Give you a preview if I can. There you go. Not taking too long to do this. It's usually a lot shorter than that. Okay, microscope can go. Toothbrush, alcohol, clean the crap off. Apply a bit of heat just to sort of loosen off this reflective tape. Look at that. Oh, go away. Oh, for God's sake, go away. Okay, in. Comes off with ease. Fucking cough. I've been struggling with this for the last 4 weeks now. Oops, almost dropped the PCB. That's no good, that then, will it? Put all these things back. That can go in the bin. Right, I will remove any excess residue that's left over. I don't want to put too much IPA around the circuitry. Just give it a clean. Okay. Yes, it is a bit of a pain. This reflective aluminium reflective tape does leave a bit of a residue on top of the surface where you've actually stuck them. So, I mean, the ones I'm using, again, from a good source, they don't leave too much residue on, and as you can see, it's not sort of, I'm only using a cotton bud with a very little sort of a pressure applied on the top, and it's clean. I don't know if I can get a bit of light and just show you that look. It's not as bad as some of the stuff that I bought from elsewhere. Right, I'm going to apply a bit of a heat to it. Reason being for this is just to sort of get rid of any moisture or any leftover of IPA and so on and so forth. So I don't want to short the board because flux is fine, but anything else, water, alcohol, can sort of short rest of the components. So what I'm doing here is just sort of preheating and evaporating any leftover residue of alcohol, whatever. Right, that's it. Okay, we'll get the board back here. Right, be careful when you're raising these clips. You don't want to damage them. Sort of when you're lifting them, I meant to say. There you go. You just drop the board in. Right, now putting things back together. this piece goes back in here. Okay, and then the screws. It makes your life a lot easier when you have all the correct tools for any, you know, for electronic jobs. I mean, I'm happy. I've got everything, more or less everything what I need here to do virtually any jobs that I do myself with ease. Why have I got the fan on? Right. Okay, so all the screws have been put back in place. Okay, now what I would do is I would put those connectors. Now when you apply the connectors, don't just, I've been doing this for a while now, so it's no problem. But what you need to do for newbies, just don't put pressure on it. Like, have a look through and realign the connector with the ribbon and the connector together. So realign it and then press it down, and you'll hear it clicking. That's when you know that it's connected properly. There you go. There we go. There we go. That's done. Put the battery back in. Oops. You stop jumping. Looking at the battery now, but let's put it back in. There's one screw already here, so I'm going to sort of put that on first. Let's put on. Get put on. Right, magic. Okay, now push the connector back in. There we go. And the moment of truth. Is it charging and is it powering up? Right, what I'll do is I'll turn it on. Okay. Connect the charger. Always recommended to use on mobile devices original chargers, because original chargers do have some sort of a protection circuit for overcharging and over voltage and so on and so forth, versus the cheap ass Chinese copy chargers that sort of destroys devices such as this, or mobile devices and things like that, like phone and things. So I would strongly recommend that. Pay the extra money and get yourself original chargers. Right, I'll just hang fire for this to boot. Okay, so there we go. I'll put this in. And as you can see, that the charging light has appeared. Out. And in. Alright. In and out? What do you mean? In and out, I meant to say. Right, so you sort of put this back cover, just sort of slide one corner in. In fact, the corner I would suggest is where these little buttons are. So I would recommend sort of sliding that corner in first, followed by the rest. So just go around and press down onto the, and you'll hear it clicking. What that means is that the ports are sort of clicking back into places. Connectors. Right, job's a good one.